Ladies and gentlemen, you're walking to a room and feel something shift. I'm talking about perfume. I'm talking about presence. The kind of energy that doesn't apologize for being chosen, that doesn't shrink for approval, that doesn't wait to be invited to tables she was born to own. Let me tell you something right now. If you're still waiting for someone to recognize you, you're late. Heaven already did. And the angels, they're not moved by noise. They're moved by purpose, fire, authority. So the question isn't, will God move for me? The question is, are you becoming the kind of woman that makes angels rise to their feet? Stick with me, because by the end of this message, you'll remember who you are, and hell will remember too. You ever wonder why some people seem to carry a presence that changes the temperature in a room? I'm not talking about charisma. I'm not talking about charm. I'm talking about calling that invisible weight a person carries when they walk in purpose, when they've locked into their assignment so deeply that heaven starts leaning in. Divine power doesn't just float around looking for the comfortable. It searches for the committed. It's not drawn to the perfect. It's drawn to the purposed. You don't move angels with self-pity. You move them with alignment. Heaven doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to divine agreement. When your heart, your actions, and your faith are all marching to the same beat, that's when things start to shift. So some of you you've been praying for breakthrough, waiting for a sign, asking for doors to open, and yet nothing's moving. Why? Because you're asking heaven to fund a life you're not fully invested in. You're asking angels to work overtime on a dream you won't even bleed for. Let that sink in. You want divine power to back you up. You got to be all in. Fully submitted, no backup plan. No halfway, no maybe someday. The angels are watching for the woman who's not looking for permission, but walking in conviction. That's the kind of woman who sets things in motion. You got to understand, angels are not your cheerleaders. They're not here for decoration. They're not sent to applaud your talent. They're warriors. They're messengers. They're divine reinforcements. And they are dispatched not by noise, not by tears alone, but by purpose. When your purpose becomes louder than your excuses, the atmosphere changes. When you decide to stop shrinking for fear of being too much, when you stop negotiating your identity with people who were never assigned to understand you, when you say, God, I may be scared, I may feel unqualified, but I'm stepping anyway. That's when heaven moves, because now you become a threat. Now you've become a vessel. Now you've become the kind of woman who doesn't just talk about faith. She walks in it when it's dark, when it's lonely, when it doesn't make sense. That's the woman divine power partners with. You want the supernatural? You want to stir angels into motion? Stop chasing status and start chasing assignment. It's not the size of your platform. It's the purity of your... People think purpose is about spotlight. Nah, purpose is about surrender. You can be cleaning floors and still be shaking the gates of hell if you're doing it with divine intention. You can be raising kids, working night shifts, praying when no one sees you, and yet your obedience is causing angels to draw swords on your behalf. You might feel hidden right now, but don't confuse hidden with forgotten. Sometimes heaven hides what it's preparing to anoint. Some of you are sitting on dreams not because they're not valid, but because you're still trying to execute them without heaven's blueprint. You want God to show up, but you won't show up as the woman he called. You're playing small, and purpose doesn't partner with small. Purpose requires audacity. It requires trust. It requires the kind of faith that makes you look crazy before it makes you look called. When you walk in purpose, opposition will come. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally doing something right. And that's where most people fold. But not you. You were built different. You were built for such a time as this. So stop praying for power without positioning yourself for purpose. Heaven doesn't just show up for inspiration, it shows up for intention. God's power doesn't chase trends, it moves with truth. So the question isn't, will the angels come? The real question is, have you become the kind of woman that gives them a reason to? There is nothing casual about the way you are made, the details of your design, the fire in your spirit, the storms you've survived. None of that screams average. So why are you walking through life like you're just another face in the crowd? Why are you playing it safe when you were built for war zones and miracles? You've been chosen, not just created. Set apart, not just assembled. But somewhere along the way, life taught you to tone it down, to be palatable, to fit in, to wait your turn. They told you not to speak too loud, not to dream too big, not to take up too much space. But let me ask you something. Who benefits from you playing small? Who wins when you deny the fire inside you? Because I promise you, it's not heaven. Heaven moves when you move in truth. When you walk like you belong, when you stop apologizing for being powerful. You've been dimming your light because it made other people squint. But let me tell you this, your light was never meant to comfort. It was meant to confront. Ordinary doesn't scare hell. Ordinary doesn't shift rooms. Ordinary doesn't carry legacy in her bones and resurrection in her voice. But you, and you know it, even if you've tried to forget it, even if you buried it under people's expectations or under years of insecurity, it's still there, that deep, sacred knowing that you were made for something more, that there's a roar inside you waiting to be unchained, that your life was supposed to be louder than this. You weren't born just to clock in, survive, and repeat. You weren't created just to exist. You were sent here to shift things. You were sent here to carry something that only you could carry, to say something only you could say, to be something that breaks generational chains and births healing in places that have only known trauma. But you can't do that trying to be like everyone else. You don't get to wear the crown and the mask. You're either going to step up as the woman you were called to be, or you're going to keep shrinking into versions of yourself that were never worthy of your story. There's a reason you feel restless when you play it safe. There's a reason comfort feels like a cage, because something inside you remembers the calling. Your spirit remembers who you are, even when your circumstances try to make you forget. And don't let the fear fool you. Fear doesn't mean you're unqualified. It means you're getting close to the edge of who you've been and who you're about to become. And let me tell you, transformation is messy. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. You cannot inspire angels to move by imitating mediocrity. You don't become a woman who shifts the heavens by trying to blend in with the earth. You want to walk in power? You want to walk in favor? Then you need to start showing up like you believe you carry something divine, like you know your voice wasn't made to echo, it was made to ignite. Stop disqualifying yourself because of what you've been through. That's not your disqualification, that's your credential. Your story doesn't make you too broken for the assignment, it makes you perfect for it. Because now you understand pain. Now you understand grace. Now you understand what it means to rise when you had every reason to stay down. And that kind of rise, it leaves a mark. It wakes something up in others. It makes the heavens take notice. You've been surviving long enough, now it's time to dominate. It's time to stand in the fullness of your name, the weight of your calling, the light of your fire. This world doesn't need another copy. It needs a consecrated original. So stop acting like you're optional, like your voice doesn't matter, like your life doesn't shake dimensions. Because you were sent here with orders. You were sent here with oil. You were sent here with authority. And the moment you believe that, the moment you stop playing small, and that's when angels start to move. Not a woman who's flawless, not a woman who has it all together, not a woman who fits every expectation they put on her. No, hell fears the woman who has every reason to quit, but doesn't. Who walks through fire and comes out with something burning inside her that can't be put out. When you're a woman on fire, you don't just survive the pain, you ignite purpose with it. Hell doesn't tremble when you're popular. It trembles when you're dangerous. And a dangerous woman is one who's done being quiet about her calling. A woman who has made peace with being misunderstood. A woman who no longer negotiates with fear or shame or guilt or approval. Because once a woman discovers that her scars don't make her weaker, they make her qualified, everything changes. You become untouchable in the ways that matter, not because life doesn't hit you, not because you don't get tired, but because every time life tries to bury you, it forgets you're a seed. And women like you don't just rise, they come back stronger, louder, wiser. You want to scare hell? Get back up one more time than it expected. Keep showing up when it counted you out. Keep believing when everything around you tells you it's over. Keep loving. Keep building, keep declaring, because that fire in you is not natural. It's divine. They'll try to contain it. They'll try to explain it, but it won't go out because it was lit by pain, fed by faith, and protected by heaven. You don't get this kind of fire by reading motivational quotes. You get it in the dark places, the midnight hours, the breakdowns nobody saw, the prayers you couldn't even put into words, the tears you cried when you thought God wasn't listening. But he was. And not only was he listening, he was lighting something inside you, something that can't be undone, something that makes demons flinch and heaven respond. You don't need to be loud to be on fire. This isn't about volume, it's about vibration. There's a frequency in your spirit that starts disrupting darkness every time you enter the room. You ever wonder why certain people attack you and you haven't even done anything to them? Why you intimidate rooms just by being in them? It's not personal, it's spiritual. They feel the heat even when you try to hide it. Because women on fire expose things in others, in systems, in atmospheres. You can't walk in that kind of power and expect to be universally liked. That fire in you, it's confrontational by nature. It burns off what's fake. It reveals what's broken. It forces people to see what they've been avoiding. And most of all, it forces you to stop shrinking. You can't be on fire and fit in. So choose. You want comfort? We're calling for the, because fire doesn't apologize. It doesn't ask for permission. It consumes, it transforms, it leads. And a woman on fire? She doesn't chase opportunity. Opportunity finds her. She doesn't compete. She commands. Not because she's arrogant, but because she knows who she is. And more importantly, she knows who sent her. She walks with a different kind of boldness. Not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that demands respect without even trying. Not because she's trying to be seen, but because her presence refuses to be ignored. Fire doesn't play safe, neither should you. This world will try to water you down. Life will try to extinguish your flame with disappointment, betrayal, delay. But your job isn't to stay warm, it's to stay lit. Fan that flame, protect it, feed it. And when the wind blows, and it will, don't fear the storm. Because a woman on fire doesn't get extinguished by the wind. He spreads. You are not weak. You are not too much. You are not lost. You are being forged in something eternal. So let them talk. Let them misunderstand you. Let them try to figure you out. Because while they're distracted, you'll be rising, burning with purpose, walking in power, speaking life, and doing what hell hoped you'd never have the strength to do, becoming unstoppable. And that's why hell fears a woman on fire. You thought what broke you was just meant to hurt you, but that pain came with an assignment. It wasn't random. It wasn't wasted. It was heaven's way of pulling the power out of you that comfort would never touch. Because nothing pulls out purpose like pain. Nothing awakens destiny like desperation. And nothing proves you're ready like what you survived when nobody was watching. You don't come into true authority through applause. You come into it through agony. Through seasons that tried to suffocate. Through nights where the silence was so loud you thought God forgot your name. Through days when getting out of bed was an act of war. That's where the shift happened. That's when the oil started to flow. That's when heaven whispered, now she's ready. We live in a world that teaches you to run from pain, to numb it, to hide it, to disguise it with filters, smiles, and fake strength. But what if I told you pain isn't the enemy? What if I told you pain was the very thing that separated you from the crowd, that marked you, that made heaven say, send the angels. She's stepping into her next, because real power is never born on the mountaintop. It's born in the valley. It's born in the moments you thought would destroy you, but instead develop you. The heartbreak that cracked you open taught you how to love deeper. The betrayal that broke your trust taught you to rely on something greater. The failure that made you feel worthless taught you where your worth really comes from. You didn't just survive that pain. You became through it. You didn't come out of that fire empty-handed. You came out with wisdom, with resilience, with a roar in your voice that can't be silenced. And now when you speak, something happens, not because you're loud, but because you're true, because your authority wasn't given to you, it was earned in the dark. And that's the kind of power heaven honors. That's the kind of woman angels move forward. Not the one who pretends everything's perfect, but the one who knows what it's like to bleed and still rise. The one who's been crushed and still chose compassion. The one who's been rejected and still kept her arms open. Power that's built on image fades, but power that's built in pain, that lasts. That roots itself so deep no storm can shake it. You can't buy that kind of strength. You can't fake that kind of presence. That's the kind of presence that makes people stop mid-sentence when you walk in the room. Not because of your status, but because of your spirit. And I need you to understand something. You didn't go through what you went through just to say you made it out. You went through it to bring someone else through. Your pain has a purpose. It's your platform. It's the very thing that gives your voice its volume and your steps their weight. You want to know why the enemy fought you so hard? Because he saw what would come out of you if you ever got back up. He saw the fire, the clarity, the impact. He saw what God put in you, and he tried to kill it with confusion, with isolation, with shame. But he failed. You're still here. And that alone makes you dangerous. So stop hiding your pain like it disqualifies you. Start using it like it legitimizes you, because it does. That pain is proof you were forged in the kind of fire that doesn't consume. It consecrates. The woman who has been through pain and chooses to rise anyway, she doesn't beg for open doors. She walks through them like they were built for her, because they were. She doesn't ask for permission. She moves with conviction. She knows her scars didn't steal her beauty, they added to it. They made her real. And in a world full of people pretending to be okay, real will always be rare. Real will always carry weight. Real will always be what hell hopes you never embrace. Because when you do, your pain becomes power and your story becomes strategy. So if you're still in the middle of your pain, don't curse it. Don't rush it. Ask it what it came to teach you. Ask it what it's preparing you for. Because one day you'll stand in the exact place that once broke you, and not only will you be whole, you'll be healing others. You'll speak with the kind of power that doesn't come from textbooks. It comes from tombs you walked out of. Your pain didn't come to bury you, it came to build you. And that's why it's your permission slip to power. You don't just wake up one day with authority. You don't stumble into legacy like it's luck. Legacy is carved in struggle. It's formed in fire. It's born in the grit of the battlefield where most people give up, but you didn't. And that choice, that refusal to bow when life came for your crown, is what started the legacy you're meant to leave behind. We've been told legacy is about what we pass down, about what people say at our funeral or what's etched on a gravestone. But let me tell you something real. Legacy is not about death. Legacy is about how you live now. It's about how you fight, how you rise, how you endure when no one is clapping, when no one understands you, and when everything in you wants to quit, but you still move. You don't build legacy in the spotlight. You build it in the shadows, in the silence, in the places where it's just you, your God, and your grit. It's not built on moments of applause. It's built on moments of decision. Those gut-wrenching decisions to keep going when nothing makes sense, to believe when everything says stop, to love when your heart's been shattered, to serve when no one sees it. Every battle you face is shaping your story. Every storm you survive is writing a sentence in the book someone else will read one day and say, if she could make it, maybe I can too. You're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for someone who will need your testimony as a map. You're fighting for the daughter you haven't met yet, for the sister watching you silently, for the younger version of you that never had someone to show her what strength looked like in real time. That's the weight and beauty of legacy. You don't need a platform to build it. You just need consistency. You just need obedience. You just need to keep showing up, even if your voice shakes, even if your knees buckle, because every time you refuse to stay down, you're laying another brick in the foundation of something eternal. There's a reason the enemy wants to wear you out, because he knows if you ever keep pushing long enough, your story will outlive you. He knows your scars are sermons. Your tears are seeds. Your obedience is a weapon. And once you realize that, once you start living like what you do matters beyond your lifetime, everything shifts. That's when life stops being about survival and starts becoming about strategy. You stop wasting battles. You stop folding under pressure. You start seeing every trial as another opportunity to expand what you're building. Because legacy isn't just about what you leave behind. It's about who you become in the process. And who you're becoming right now, that woman, she's dangerous. She's rooted. She's becoming the kind of force that doesn't just walk through fire, she brings others out of it too. You might not see the impact right now. You might feel like it's not working, like no one notices, like your effort is in vain. But legacy doesn't show up instantly. It shows up over time through faithfulness, through the days you choose to rise, even when the world gives you every reason to lay down. The people who changed your life probably didn't even know they were doing it at the time. They spoke a word, they stood tall, they endured something and shared it later, and it marked you. That's legacy. That's what you're doing, whether you see it or not. Every choice you make in the dark becomes light for someone else down the road. That battle you're in, it's not punishment, it's preparation for territory, for impact, for influence that doesn't just fade when the moment is over. You're being entrusted with something holy, something generational. And when you realize that, your perspective changes. You stop asking, why me? And start declaring, why not me? Because you understand that what cost you comfort is building something that comfort never could. So fight. Fight with fire in your spirit and legacy in your vision. Fight knowing that your breakthrough becomes someone else's blueprint. Fight knowing that one day someone will tell their story and your name will be woven into it, not because you were perfect, but because you refused to quit. You were never just meant to pass through this world quietly. You were sent to leave a mark, to shift atmospheres, to plant seeds in dry ground and make it bloom again. And every battlefield you faced is proof that you're doing exactly that. You're building legacy with every step, every scar, every yes. And the heavens are watching, nodding, saying, there she goes, the woman who inspires angels to move. You don't have to be flawless for the heavens to move on your behalf. You don't need a perfect past, spotless record, or pristine reputation. What activates heaven is not how clean your resume looks. It's how aligned your spirit is with your calling. It's not about appearances. It's about agreement. When your life starts lining up with the reason you were sent here, things shift. Doors open, paths clear. Angels don't move because you said the right words. They move because your heart said yes. Because your spirit stopped running. Because your soul finally aligned with what heaven already knew about you. That's where the power is. Alignment is when your actions, your words, and your posture match the truth of your assignment. It's when you stop playing tug of war with your calling. It's when you stop trying to edit your identity to make others comfortable. It's when you stop begging for signs and start becoming one. When you align, you don't have to chase. You attract. You don't have to force. You flow. Because you're not trying to be anything, you've become the very thing you were created to be. And let me tell you something. Alignment costs. It will cost you your comfort. It will cost you your excuses. It will cost you your need to be liked. Because alignment demands obedience before it offers applause. It demands sacrifice before it brings increase. You'll lose some things in the process. Friends, habits, old mindsets. But what you gain? Peace, power, purpose. You cannot inspire heaven if you're still negotiating with hell. You cannot step into divine rhythm while clinging to toxic cycles. You want to see supernatural movement, then live in supernatural truth. That means no more lukewarm living. No more halfway prayers, no more double-minded declarations. Heaven moves where there's clarity, where there's commitment, where there's a woman who isn't just hoping to be rescued, but is ready to be released. Because alignment is readiness. It's saying, I don't need all the details, I just need to be in position. It's saying, even if it costs me everything familiar, I'll still choose obedience. It's saying, I don't want to just be inspired, I want to be activated. And when you make that shift, when you stop chasing perfection and start chasing purpose, that's when you'll see heaven respond. That's when angels start moving on your behalf, not because you're impressive, but because you're in position, because you've become a conduit, not a container. You're not just asking God to bless your plans, you're finally submitting to His. You stop saying, use me if I'm ready, and start saying, use me anyway. You don't wait until you feel qualified. You walk like you're already chosen because you are. Alignment isn't about your feelings. It's about your yes. It's about waking up every day and saying, I'm still in. Even if I'm tired, even if I'm scared, even if I don't see results yet, I'm still aligned. Heaven doesn't need your perfection. It needs your participation. It needs your presence in the places you've been avoiding. It needs your voice in rooms you've been silent in. It needs your story, the real one, the raw one, the one you've tried to hide, because someone is waiting on the other side of your obedience. Someone is looking for a woman who stopped pretending and started aligning. This is why the enemy has tried so hard to distract you, because alignment brings acceleration. When you step into who you're called to be, things that used to take years happen in months. Delays break, cycles end, patterns shift, because heaven doesn't waste time, it redeems it. The moment you get in sync with your assignment, time starts to bow. Favor begins to chase you down. Angels begin to go before you because you're not out here hoping, you walking. There's a rhythm to your life that only you can step into. A sound your life is supposed to release. A chain your voice is meant to break. But you only access that level when you align. Not when you perform, not when you impress, when you align. You've been asking for confirmation. This is it. Stop waiting to feel worthy. You're already marked. Stop waiting for permission. You're already called. Get in position, get in purpose, get aligned, because when a woman stops playing games with her greatness, stops entertaining what drains her, and starts agreeing with heaven, she doesn't just walk with angels. She leads them. And the world, it never stays the same. You weren't built for silence. You weren't designed to blend. You were forged in fire, baptized in tears, and anointed in seasons where nobody clapped, nobody called, nobody cared. And yet you rose. So now, rise again.